Alright, what is going down, YouTube? So, as I stated in my other video, I was waiting on the RBA section to show up for my Rincoe Manto RBA. It has finally showed up. Box is a bit beat up on delivery. Don't really care because the components were all there. We didn't lose anything. So what I've done is I basically opened this up. On the box there are 0 instructions. And by 0 I mean, yep, there's literally nothing. Nothing at all. It's just a box with a little scratch off. Doesn't even make recommendations on coil size. So in the package you have the RBA head that comes in this bag. Then you have a little bag that includes some spare O-rings, a blue screwdriver, some spare screws, and most of all, what's really neat is this little adapter. This is a 510 adapter. So what that does, screws onto the bottom of the RBA section. Oh, probably should have taken that off there. There we go. So off of their chimney. RBA screws in. Okay, and then we look around because we're terribly unprepared at the moment. Let's do this. So, much like the Smock RPM 40 lax, this guy screws right onto a 510, which allows you to pre-fire your build, which I like very much. Well, holds it for you so you don't have to. Build space. Build space is super duper tiny. To be expected. Let's see, so we got flathead screws. Post hole's a decent size, which is strange. You have post hole sizes to fit a decent size build, but the deck is relatively small. So update on the pre-built coils. So I vaped both the MTL and the DTL. Both of them were not good. Not good for me. I didn't get barely any flavor out of them. Way too airy, and coil life was not very good at all. I mean, I went through 2 of them in the time it took this to get here, so one of those things. But I got it specifically for this. So we're gonna take a stab at getting a build in here, and the wicking area looks somewhat decent for, I'm gonna say, a 2.5 mil coil. We're gonna wrap 2.5 and we're gonna see how it looks. What I'm going to be wrapping up is some material I made in anticipation of this RBA weeks ago. So it is a 32 by 40 quad core staggered stainless steel cores. I went with stainless steel cores because I didn't have 32 gauge N80, surprisingly enough. But let's see what. That's gonna be perfect. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 5 wrap. So the posts are terribly, terribly close. We might actually have to drop this down a wrap just to fit in the posts. Let's see. See if I can get it in there without distorting the build too much. Yeah, that's gonna be a hard no. Okay, so no big deal. I'll just take one wrap off. Really have high hopes for this RBA, not gonna lie, because otherwise this device in its entirety is a complete miss for me. I say that mostly because if I was limited to just the pre-built coils, I wouldn't use it at all. Shot of that. Pretty stuff. I anticipate this coil somewhere around 20 to 25 watts should be amazing. So we're gonna see. Right over the airflow. I like that. The slots for the screws are super narrow. So yeah, I would suggest breaking out your bits to ensure that you have one that fits in those slots just right, unlike what I'm doing. You know, I bet you we can get those snug enough with the blue handle. Yep, blue handle fits real nice. Let's see if we can just snug it up just a touch without stabbing myself. All right, nice and snug. This is a first go for me, so we're going to assume that about a 2 mil gap over the top of the airflow is going to be nice. Coil nice and level. Snipper leads nice and flush. You're going to want to make sure that your leads are either super tight to the posts, or you simply just kind of roll them over. You don't want them fouling on the back side of the chimney. That would not be good. There's our build installed. We're ready to bump her up with some heat. New coil, yes. We're gonna turn our wattage way down. I was vaping at tank at about 250, so we're gonna start at 10. Okay. Let's go creeping here. Very gentle. Boy, that looks nice already. Turn our wattage up a little bit. Going from 10 watts to 20. we're there. 20-watt pulse. Beautiful. Alright, let's wick this bad boy up. So, if you're wondering why it has a bluish hue to it, the core may be stainless steel at 32 gauge, however the wrap is 40 gauge nichrome 80. Again, that was a 2 and 2.5 millimeter coil. Yeah. Alright, so a little strip of cotton. For cotton, much like everything, I use Moji pads off Amazon. I've used them for 3+ years. I don't have super duper fancy cotton. I've never noticed a difference myself, to be honest. So I've kind of always stayed with the same thing. I take care of some local people's stuff as well, so having that repeatability from cutting a pad versus pulling, you know, raw cotton from a bag just makes it easier. So there's no like retainer that's going to hold your cotton down here. All I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it so it sits flush there. Then we're going to use some juice just to keep our cotton in place. Do a little check. That looks like it's going to work out perfect. All right. Give her a little fluff. I'm not really looking to thin anything here, just fluff her up. Alright, for juice, not 100% sure on what we're going to run in this, to be honest. You know what, let's try this. I'm going to go with some hexagrams by Def Liquids. The profile is a Teddy Graham cookies dipped in caramel sauce. It's new to me. The other juices from his line that I've tried so far have been excellent. If you're into cereals, RX Queen is excellent. There's also another one called Gore, which is super unique. I've never had a juice quite like that. It's got kind of like this nice earthy tone. It's got some caramel and honey and custard. It's really good. Again, that's Def Liquids, DEF. I always do a little dry fire just to break in the cotton. Now what we're going to do is just place it. And get it in place here and show you all I'm doing really. did was basically lay the cotton nice and flat into the little wicking channel, both sides. Now we're going to get the chimney cap back on. This is the very first go with this, so there might be a more creative way of doing this, but I also haven't played with something like this in a very, very long time. I remember back in the day there used to be you know, a little more access. Might have went a little heavy with the wetting of the cotton. Back in the day with atomizers that wick like this, they usually used a retaining ring, which was super helpful because it would hold the cotton in place for you when you got your chimney section back on. You know, not to date myself, but the Griffin 22, for instance, was one of them that was very similar to that. But let's see. It's always fun trying to get it to thread on because the cotton wants to get in threads and make it all funky dunky on you. Yay. I was gonna say cue the music for SpongeBob. 3 hours later. We might come back and just shorten that cotton up a little bit, but we'll see. We'll see how it wicks. Little chamois towel. If you guys don't have a little chamois per se, or mod rag, I highly suggest them, and I never had one until as of recent. One of my buddies sent me one, and I was like, oh yeah, cool, rag to wipe stuff down. But to be honest, it works so darn well. They really do. They work excellent. So what we're doing now is we're going to take this, clean this up a little bit. See? All that juice just gone. All that juice really wasn't that much, but you saw it. There was some there. New coil. Turn our wattage back up. Get ourselves a little tube. Get our head on here. Be good to go. All right. So our RBA section is built, wicked, and ready to go. You're going to take your lower airflow section, get that back screwed in there nice and snug. Get your airflow in place. Again, this goes in from the bottom. Now I'm going to point this out this time. So you see this little index up here? When you put this in, this is going to go in your mod like this. Your airflow comes in from this side. So take your atomizer base, if you want to be super OCD, line it up on the side, simply press fit it in. So now when you put this in, your airflow is going to be lined up with the airflow on the mod. Do you have to? No, you don't. But if you share a similar OCD, such as mine, there you go. I will say this little silicone plug is in there like swimwear. There we go. Not running anything crazy. This is just some 3 microgram juice. I'm just excited to try it. air bubble in there. A little whiskey throttle. I'm all kinds of messy today, I will say that. They're cleaned up here, cleaned up for the show. All right. Again, there's your index tab. Put your bottom in, a little push down, slide on in. Bada bing, bada boom. Now, it's reading our resistance at 0.31. I didn't cross-check it on my other DNA, but that's right around what I figured this build would come in at. Okay, boy, that's a long video. So, 25 watts. Already light years better than it was. It still has this taste about it, and I'm not sure what it is. This might be silly, but we're off. Rincoe Manto Rba, loaded up with a quad core staggered. $32.5 watts. I was hoping for a little bit more of a saturated vape per se, but we're gonna run it for a bit, see if we run into any issues or any quirks. Come on back. Already much better. That's wide open airflow, and it's more restrictive than the direct to lung coil, and it has much better flavor than the mouth lung coil. Num num nums. There it is. There it is. We're going to chain on this thing for a minute and see if it keeps up. Four or five toots back to back to back to back to back. I'm not seeing any bubbles, and I'm not getting any dry hits, so we could have just got lucky and it is just wicked stellar. I dig it. I dig it. I dig it. I will say this, I still get better flavor off my RPM 40. But, in all fairness, my RPM 40 build was comparable to the stock mesh coil for about a pod and a half. If you use rebuildables often and you use custom coils, exotic coils per se, they have a break-in time. Everything has a break-in time. Your cotton has a break-in time, your coils have a break-in time. They got to see a certain amount of juice before they really start working as intended. So if you get the rebuildable section and you get a build in it and you're not overwhelmed by it, give it time. I'm gonna bring this to bowling with me tonight, toot on it, try and get everything broke in and working. I will say that is a excellent success though, because, well, we don't have any leaks, and already this coil vape's so much better than the stock ones. We're up to 41.5. Really, really good warmth. So long as there's some warmth there, I can vape on just about anything, but it has to be warm. I would say 50 watts for this build is about where it's gonna start running into issues. Still going though. Outstanding. Outstanding. Let's keep going. Little though, 55. Sold. Sold, folks. Puts out a little bit more wattage than my RPM 40 does. The build deck is a lot more friendly than the RPM 40, and as I stated, that little attachment to put onto a regular mod is a game changer for me. I know they now make one for the RPM 40, but in all reality, it should have been included with the RBA. You shouldn't have to buy an additional piece to an additional piece. Just my shake on it. $60 watts is her, and you can tell by the sound that it makes. That little cringe at the end. That little cringe is telling you that you go any more than that and I'm going to make it very unpleasant for you. So let's just dial this back down to 45. Right back in the wheelhouse, folks. We're now getting some bubbles, so we're ready to go. Hope everybody enjoyed this. Sorry it's so long, but I didn't really feel like editing it. If you're serious about getting the RBA, I'm going to report back after I get everything broke in, but as of right now, light years better for this little device. Peace.